Welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast for nonprofit leaders, mission-driven creatives, and social entrepreneurs. Get ready to stop dreaming and start doing. Here, ideas become action. We prioritize purpose and profit. You ready? Let's go. Today's guest is a real treat. I'm so excited to welcome Karena from Hello Inner Light to the podcast. I've been a big fan of her work. And if you have ever tried meditation or affirmations or thought work and just felt like something's missing, it's not clicking, or my mind is wandering and I don't really feel better than when I started, you're really going to love today's session, because the way that she teaches this process of somatic healing and just havening to relieve stress, you will feel better. I find it much more accessible than the other traditional routes. And she guides us through a havening session specifically designed for changemakers and nonprofits. So bookmark that in advance of your next big meeting. It is perfect for that. Now, you're going to hear in this session, you're going to hear some background about her. We interview her to begin with, so we learn a little bit more about her work and what havening is and somatic healing. And then you'll also hear maybe some questions or some prompts from me to the audience. We did record this live and we had audience members who were going through the havening session with us. So I wanted to share that context with you before we begin. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, Karena Newkirchner. I'm so excited to have you on. I have been binging your podcast. Tell us what it's called, Somatic Healing.
Somatic healing meditations.
Anytime I feel a little anxious, anytime I feel a little not myself, that's my go-to podcast. And I was so honored when you said, yes, I will do something. I'm happy to come on. So I know that so many nonprofit leaders, this is the part of the work that we don't even have a toolkit for this. That's part of what I do in my program, is really that inner work with the outer strategy. But this is outside of my zone of expertise. I'm so thrilled to welcome you on today. So let's begin by just introduce yourself. Tell us about the work you do. And for a lot of us, we maybe have not heard of havening or somatic work before. So let's start with that.
Totally. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Karena with Hello Inner Light, and I'm a trauma-informed emotional healing coach with a focus on really going beneath the surface to what is actually holding us back from living lives of authenticity and joy. And there's a couple layers to that. And one of them is nervous system work. Like, our nervous systems are some parts of them are very primal and can have a tendency to get stuck in cycles of stress and overwhelm and anxiety, which can kind of cause us to play small and hold back. It can make our fears feel really, really big and really, really real, maybe even bigger and realer than the actual threat that we're facing, And so, I focus a lot with my clients and students on helping to regulate your nervous system, and then even beyond that, helping get to the roots of the fears, which often live in the body. So you asked specifically about somatic work and havening, and that is because our somatic just means of the body, essentially. And so these are therapeutic techniques that we use to help our body actually release tension and stress, and to help process the emotions that are held in our body. Yeah.
There's so much to that. And I want to say, for anyone who's listening, who's like, I don't know what she's talking about, right? I'm not good at this, or I just really prefer not to have donor conversations, or I just really prefer to avoid these things. A lot of times we don't realize that that's what our head is saying, but what our body is saying is some flavor of, I don't feel safe. This feels deeply uncomfortable. And that is the avoidant part, or that is the part that is causing us maybe to avoid taking those actions, which really drive our mission forward, which is what we're talking about today. So what would you say to that person who's maybe even a little bit uncertain of even going there emotionally in their body?
Totally. Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me. I also have an avoidant part that's trying to protect me from pain or rejection or, whatever it is that I'm afraid or anxious about. So first of all, it's just totally normal. And we live in a culture that doesn't understand emotions in even a really basic way, it feels like, and so it does feel like it should be easier just to avoid them or not feel them. But the fact of the matter is that they still live on in our bodies, even if our brain tries to rationalize them away or push them away or anything like that. And so the work that I do, it is, sometimes a little touchy feely, but sometimes it's just really basic, like, let's feel better in our bodies. Let's decrease our stress level in an actual real way. Let's find self-care that can actually affect our anxiety, and so I totally understand the desire to push it away. And that is what we've culturally been conditioned to do, but it's also not really effective, I find.
There is this moment in my life that's like, I just remember it. It's there. It's like ingrained, which is I'm like maybe 12 years old and I'm playing basketball and I fall and the coach, my dad, the key players walk it off. And I was in pain. Ultimately, fractured just a little part, but it was that walk it off mentality. And I think that there is this walk it off mentality the older we get as adults. It's like, walk it off, walk off that thing, put your feelings over here on a shelf, never to be seen or heard from again, get back out there. And that's that kind of piece that I've really learned that keeps us stuck. Will you talk a little bit about the science behind this? Because in getting ready for this, we talked about, like boosting, some of the positive emotions, the happiness chemicals in your brain. So let's talk about some of the science.
Totally. So we're actually going to do a havening exercise together a little later. So let me tell you specifically about the science of havening. So havening is a somatosensory sort of process where we use soothing touch to affect our brain, which is really interesting because what most people don't realize is we're like, oh, I have stress. Oh, I have emotions. Oh, these things happen. But what happens oftentimes is that we're actually stuck in a cycle of stress, or we're stuck in a cycle of overwhelm, or we're stuck in a cycle of anxiety where parts of our brain are continuing to loop over and over and over again in those stress cycles. Like when you were talking about the walk it off mentality, all I could think about was how bad I burned myself out doing that. I pushed myself into complete adrenal fatigue, because I was just trying to be the good girl, do the right thing, keep going. Yep. And so when we're kind of stuck in these loops, it can be really hard to rationalize our way out of them. And again, our society doesn't give us really good tools to get out of those. And so one tool that I found that's been incredible is havening, because the science behind it is that we use this soothing touch, which I'll walk you through in a little while, but it actually down regulates our amygdala, which might sound kind of weird, but your amygdala is kind of like the stress or the kingpin of your stress and trauma response in your brain. And so it is one of those primal parts that will keep you looping in cycles of stress. It will continue to tell your kidneys to pump out adrenaline, or your adrenal glands to pump out adrenaline. It will keep your stress hormone levels high. And what they've shown is that when we do this type of soothing touch, it sends delta waves to the amygdala, and those delta waves communicate to the amygdala, you're safe, it's okay. And so the amygdala actually starts reversing its message that we don't have to pump out as much adrenaline. We can now pump out serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin. So we have this rise of the happiness chemicals and we have a decrease of the stress chemicals. And it's a way for our body to actually help our brain come out of that stress cycle that we tend to get stuck in. And it's really deeply effective because most of the time we're trying to get out of stress by solving problems with our conscious mind or talking ourselves out of it or just doing the same thing we've done a million times already before that hasn't worked, and this actually works in a really different way.
Yeah, there's so much to that. I think that there is that culture of like more, do more, do more, do more. And that is the other side of that is burnout. The other side of that is exactly what you experience, what you talked about yourself experiencing. And I think that that's why I think whenever we're about to do something that feels challenging and feels like expansive and feels maybe even hard or daring or audacious, which a lot of leaders do. I think there's the before, like the lead up to the thing, there's the actual thing, and then there's like the post show thing. And as you were describing that process, for me, it's if I'm feeling scared or nervous or something like that, it'd be a lot of anxiety, a lot of inner chatter in that lead up. The actual thing, I tend to like, it wasn't as bad as the lead up, right? But the post game, the post show of that, I am depleted. And that I think speaks to all of the hormones and things like that were trying to rise to the occasion of all the anxiety in my body, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So our body is like trying to help us as best as possible. And so that's really where this practice can come in and help kind of diffuse that on that front end.
Right, right. Well, because our amygdala is meant to keep us alive, which is like very good. We're so happy about that. And it acts so quick. It's way faster than our conscious mind. Like if you stepped off a curb and then you saw a bicycle barreling towards you, it would take like 0.75 milliseconds to just pull you back, or no, 75 milliseconds to just pull you back before you'd had any other thought, before any other part of your brain had noticed that bike was barreling towards you. It would keep you safe. But it's constantly looking for threat. And it was really evolved when humans were in a completely different life, and so now our threat response goes off because we get a nasty email or something, and now cortisol is pumping through our bodies like a tiger's chasing us, right? And it's no longer an appropriate stress response for what we're actually experiencing, but it still feels like threat to our amygdala, right? And even big emotions can feel like threat to our amygdala. And so that's how we kind of get stuck in these stress cycles, is that this just evolved for a different life than what we're living. And trying to keep us alive, but it's often a little bit too protective, a little bit too overactive.
Yeah, it's like overcompensating. It's like, yeah, exactly. So thank you for that explanation, because I think that helps give everybody context. So let's dig in. Let's do a mini session. Talk to us about what to expect, and I'll kind of hand it over to you. And as we go through this, we will have time for Q&A. So for anyone that's on live, if you have any questions, you can just type them in the chat. Hey, Changemaker, the Purpose and Profit Club coaching program is open now, and you can save $1,000 for a limited time. Now, I'm running Outreach Genius live during the month of May. This is my prospecting and outreach sprint. We've had organizations upgrade donors and get $125,000 gifts after one session of this program. We've had organizations boldly ask for more, boldly prospect, cultivate brand new revenue streams, whether it's partners, sponsors, ambassadors, or individual donors. You need to be inside. If you want more information, go to splendidcourses.com/club.
All right, so let me just describe how to do havening, and we'll start doing that together. So again, I told you it's soothing touch, and one of the ways to do the havening touch is just to rub your palms together. So palm to palm havening. Yep, exactly. At whatever pace and pressure feels good. The other way, or the second way to do it, is down your arms from shoulder to elbow, shoulder to elbow, shoulder to elbow, just going down. And the third way to do it is anywhere on your face, cheeks, or forehead. So you could rub your cheeks, you can rub your forehead. I'm on camera, so I won't go too crazy. But, like if you're just by yourself, you can do whatever feels good. Rub your whole face, close your eyes or not. And again, there have been studies that show that these three types of touch increase the delta wave activity in these deep parts of your brain, which is sending that physiological sign to your brain, like we can let go of the threat response, we can let go of the stress response, we're safe. So we're going to do this havening touch for a few minutes together. And for today's exercise, I'm just going to start with some very generic nervous system regulation techniques. One of the most effective nervous system regulation techniques that we can do with havening, because this can be used anytime that you're feeling nervous, or you're feeling anxious, or you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling pressure, right? This is really effective to help your body and bring you, boost your mood, bring those stress hormones down, soothe your stress on a deep body level. And then we're going to move into more specific stuff for for maybe if you're feeling imposter syndrome or fear of rejection or whatever might come up when you're working with donors and that sort of thing. So just doing the havening touch, just begin to look around your environment. You kind of just gently move your eyes and head and neck and take in the colors and the textures and the shapes. And notice if you can find 2 shades of green, and 3 shades of yellow, and notice something shiny, and notice something that looks soft. Great. And then if you feel comfortable, you can let your eyes close and just keep doing the havening touch. And you're moving between the palms and the arms and the face havening in whatever way feels right. So if you like one of them a lot, you do that one extra. If one of them you don't like, you can skip it. You're just kind of intuitively doing whatever feels right. But with your eyes closed, begin to listen to all of the sounds that you can hear. So you can hear my voice. And you might be able to actually hear the havening. It makes a little bit of a sound, or maybe you can hear your breath. Maybe you can hear like a furnace or a fan or animals or people in the background. So just take a nice breath and listen to the closest sound to you right now. And then really feel the havening touch. So you can feel the temperature of your skin. You can feel the texture of your palms, right? They have all those little lines crossing them. And you can feel the texture of your fingertips. And you can feel the gentle movement and the gentle pressure of the touch. And again, you're just doing the havening in whatever way feels right. Palms, down your arms, or on your face. There's no way to do it wrong. And now just notice that as you hear the sounds and as you feel the havening touch, maybe you can also feel your body resting on the chair or the couch that you're sitting on. Like you can notice where your weight is resting the most right now. And you can feel the contact of your body with the couch or the chair. Noticing if that contact, if it's soft or hard, bumpy or smooth. And just breathing. And you may already be feeling kind of different than when you started. So just feeling and noticing how you're feeling as you take a few more breaths. And then when you feel ready, you can let your eyes open. And again, find the greens and the yellow. Find the shiny thing. And just notice how you feel. So that's just a really basic and quick nervous system regulation technique that is so helpful when you're feeling scattered or you're feeling nervous or you're feeling stressed or pressured. It's a quick way to kind of come back to your body. And like I said, it will be decreasing those stress hormones and increasing those happiness hormones. It's telling your amygdala you're safe and you're okay. So how do you feel, Christina?
Oh my gosh, like 10x calmer. Like, and I caught myself, it was probably like 25% in, do this breath
Right.
that came out like unintentionally, it just came out. And then there were a few more later, and wow. Yeah. Much more relaxed. Yeah, for sure. That was beautiful. Yeah. Sabrina says relaxed. Yeah, totally.
Totally. So that's just a lovely, quick, and effective way to bring yourself into a different state. And again, we're working with our body to come into a new state. We're not trying to convince our mind to relax, right? Tell yourself to relax. It doesn't necessarily do anything, but show your body you're safe by coming into connection, doing the havening, and all of a sudden real things shift. This is what I love about havening is it's like the self-care we've all been longing for because it actually makes a big difference.
Yeah. What you just said popped into my head. It's like telling a child to calm down or being told to calm down. Like you're ever in an argument or calm down. You're like, that is escalating me. So when you tell yourself, just don't be anxious, just don't, right? You're definitely, it's not working. And I shared with you in the green room earlier that we were almost in a kind of a fender bender a while back. And we, like, my husband kind of steered off the road, and I watched my son get really scared, even though there was no accident, right? He steered off the road to prevent the accident, and he got very upset. And I could in that moment go, calm down, we're fine. But actually I was like, watch this, Bubs, just do this with me. We're just going to do this. And it gave him something to do, right? And for his, I guess, body to focus on, and less, because his brain in that moment was like, up. Yeah.
Yeah. His amygdala had registered threat very accurately, right?
Yeah. It worked. It was such a good like mom hack to have in my tool belt, because you can reason your way. We're fine. There's nothing to worry about, blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, the body is like, we're not fine. We're scared. Yeah. So I love it. And so we can do this type of stuff, literally park your car before a meeting or before a Zoom call, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it just brings you into a different relationship with your breath, with your body. And like you said, it gives you something to do, which feels so good when you're feeling out of control or anxious or something, because it's something effective to do too. So you don't have to be as afraid of your emotions or, of whatever sort of stress cycle or spiral can potentially happen when you are under pressure or, already overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that, some of the things that people struggle with in your audience could be like imposter syndrome, fear of failure, fear of rejection, just nerves in general because of high pressure situations. Yeah. So I have another thing that we can do. We're still going to do the havening. And this also comes from the havening world. They're called Iffermations. So just like you already mentioned, if you just tell yourself to calm down, that doesn't necessarily actually calm you in any way. The same thing is that, it's popular in our culture to do affirmations, which are like, I'm happy, I'm fine, it's all going to be good, and those could work for some people, but for most people, I find they feel kind of fake, or they even feel like sort of like pressure, like, oh shoot, I'm supposed to be fine, everybody else is fine, but I don't feel fine at all, So these affirmations are just a softer way to open us up to more possibilities without feeling fake and phony like affirmations do. So we just put what if at the beginning of affirmations. And so I just made a list of some affirmations that your audience might really like. So you do these with the havening touch just because the havening will make it more effective and more soothing. So let's imagine that you're about to do a donor meeting and you're feeling however you're feeling. Maybe you're feeling self-judgmental. Maybe you're feeling self-conscious. I don't know for you. And the first thing we do with affirmations is we just kind of acknowledge what we're actually feeling and try to normalize it. Because like I said before, when we try to push our emotions away, they don't have anywhere to go. There is no away, that doesn't exist. And so the more we resist them, the more power they have in our lives. So my first set of affirmations are just to kind of accept and acknowledge how you're feeling. So you're imagining that you're before a donor meeting, and I'm going to read these and then you can just repeat them. You don't have to repeat it out loud, Christina, but everybody can just repeat it to themselves. So, what if it's okay that I feel this way right now? What if lots of people struggle like this sometimes? What if there's nothing wrong with me for feeling this way? What if my feelings actually make sense in a way? What would it be like to acknowledge what I'm really feeling and love myself anyway? What would it be like to soften my heart to myself and this moment? What if it's okay to feel this way, knowing that I won't always feel this way? What would it be like if I looked at myself through gentler eyes right now? So, yeah, with those affirmations, we're decreasing our resistance to our own feelings and we're having some compassion, right? Which is a really resourcing and nourishing thing to do. And then I have some more affirmations that can kind of open you up to like greater possibilities, So you've met yourself where you are, you're bringing down your stress level with the havening. And so, my first one of that list is, what if everything works out? What if things go even better than I imagined? What would it be like to have my own back even if things go wrong? What if I have nothing to prove? What if my worth isn't tied to my performance or my actions? What if I'm whole, complete, and worthy just as I am? What if I belong to myself no matter how I perform? What if I'm allowed to be imperfect and make mistakes? What if it's safe for me to be human? What would it be like if I honored my vulnerabilities as well as my strengths? Who could I become if I believed in my potential? What if my voice and my contributions matter? What if it's no coincidence that I've made it this far? What if I'm ready? What if everything goes well? And then you can just finish this sentence for yourself in your head. What if everything goes well because? Yeah, so just noticing how those affirmations feel, how they can kind of bring even more relaxation into your mind, into your body, and they don't really feel like you're having to fake it or force it. They often feel like, oh, maybe, oh, interesting. There's like this spaciousness that creates a little bit more space for a different perspective to sneak in, a deeper breath to, come on in, a little bit more compassion and gentleness, a little more realness, honestly, because a lot of times we have
Mm-hmm.
kind of a perception that we have to be so perfect or so, invulnerable, almost like a robot or something, and
Yeah.
it's like, we're just human here. So
Those were beautiful. Y'all in the chat, tell me if you liked the affirmations. I felt like I want these in cards. I want it printed out. Like those were so great. And for me, they're very, very different than a traditional affirmation because affirmations can be hard to believe. And this felt like this kind of is like loosening the grip of maybe the imposter syndrome or the anxiety or whatever kind of the loop was. And also I got a little emotional thinking about the the audience of nonprofit leaders and change makers and social impact professionals who, if they thought this more often or had a little bit of this in their toolkit, what they would go out and do, what they would be willing. Yeah. Yeah. Kathy says, I liked how they open the opportunity. Exactly. Because if you go to bat for what could work out, imagine what you'll do, right? Of like, and then if your body is with you in those moments too, it's like, doesn't feel as scary.
totally. Yeah. And I like how you say that you felt more relaxed, more released, open, because in somatic work, it is all the difference is how your body feels. You know what I mean? Because we sometimes get disconnected from our bodies through just enculturation and all that sort of stuff. But it's huge. If you're saying affirmations and they feel tense in your body, then guess what? They feel tense in your emotions and your mind too. And if you say these, there's like this, oh, I can relax a little, I can breathe a little. And that really does make all the difference. Like it's a significant difference that it feels good to your body.
Yeah. How would you recommend people incorporate this work? Because, like anything, I would imagine you need to like incorporate it into your practice, right? Into your week or something like that. Or how can they use this type of work?
Totally. That's such a good question. Well, the cool thing about this nervous system regulation work is that the effects are cumulative. So it makes you feel better in the moment, right? I think we all feel a little bit different than we did before we started the havening, before we started the affirmations. But just like if you do cardio once, right? It feels good, but it's not like necessarily going to make a huge change in your health. Like, I always tell people, like, if you only do nervous system regulation when you're already upset, it's like flossing when your gums are already bleeding, which is great. Do it. It's better than not doing it. You know what I mean? That I'm not like
Totally.
judging anyone for that. But if you actually do it regularly, then your whole nervous system begins to move into this more regulated space. It has more access to it, and you can move there more comfortably when you're not stressed and when you're stressed, So it almost becomes like a little highway in your nervous system that you know how to travel.
That's a light bulb moment because I was thinking of this in the when I feel this, let me lean on that. And what I hear you saying is like you could actually build up your own, I guess, like nervous system regulation when you're doing it in the non-anxious times, the like when you bring it in. Okay, cool. So maybe like in the morning or before bed or something like that, when before the like stress of the day, before that part would be a good time.
Anytime you do it, honestly, is fantastic. Like if you're a very structured thinker and you want to put it in every morning, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I often do it just at random times in my day because I'm like, oh, you know what? I kind of want to snap at my kids right now. So instead of snapping at my kids, why don't I take 5 minutes and breathe and haven, and then I'll just like, I will be resourced, like I show up as a different person. So yeah, but the more you do it, the more I mean, our brains are wired for neuroplasticity. It's amazing the change that we can actually make when we practice these things regularly. So I do at least one nervous system regulation exercise a day because they're usually pretty quick, pretty effective. And I always feel better anyway. So it's my favorite self-care because it's self-care that actually makes me feel better in the short term and rewires my capacity for calm and expands my capacity for, being compassionate and thoughtful and present, in the long run as well. So, yeah.
Oh, I love
So
that.
there's a plug for doing it whenever.
Yeah, exactly. Y'all drop in any questions that you have, and let's kind of wrap up with a couple of different things. So one is, if people are like, okay, this is cool, but I need more support, tell us about how they can get in touch with you and work with you and what you've got cooking.
Yeah, thank you. So my business is Hello Inner Light. So I'm at Hello Inner Light on Instagram and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So you can come follow me. And I am launching a membership right now where I'll be teaching live nervous system regulation classes. It's called the Co-Regulation Community, and it's really to help us harness that power of the neuroplasticity. Think of it like a membership for yoga classes or exercise classes. They're drop-in classes where you can regularly connect with the community and help your own nervous system come into more calm, help your own nervous system expand. So that's starting April 28th, and I'm actually inviting everyone to a free nervous system regulation class with me on April 28th. So I think that the link for that will be in the show notes.
Yep.
Because they're short. They're like 25-minute classes because we just need these bite-sized moments of calm and peace. We need these bite-sized moments of coming into our center, feeling our body. And like I said, over time, we really can increase our capacity for doing that even when we're stressed.
And I want to offer, like, as you were speaking, I think one of the reasons why I really like this method a lot for calming my nervous system is because I've read the books, I've done the things, I've taken the yoga class, I've meditation started and stopped. And one of the places that's hard for me with meditation is the stillness. Mm-hmm. So the stillness of the mind, but the stillness of the body, right? And so the havening gives that part of me something to focus on, away from like the not helpful chatter focus and on the way away from the I'm supposed to be still meditation focus. And so I think there's a lot of people out there who feel the way I feel, which is I'm kind of doing that thing wrong, but I do enjoy the outcome of that thing, of the meditation, of the stillness. So have you found that to be true for people, that they kind of resonate with havening for that?
Totally. Yeah, stillness is nearly impossible if you're feeling stressed or you have anxious thoughts or a tendency towards overwhelm. And so you'll notice in the beginning, the exercise we started with, like we were looking for blue, and then we were listening for, different layers of sound. We were feeling our body. That's one of the best ways to quiet your mind because it just gives your mind a task.
Yep.
And so that looping thoughts that, we believe and we think are so important and will just loop forever and ever and ever. When you give your mind something else to do, that's one of my favorite parts of that exercise is you're saying, hey, brain, will you feel how I'm contacting the chair right now? Which not only lets your body know like, oh, I'm sitting in a chair. I'm okay. I don't have to be worrying about this threat that's going to be happening or that I sense could happen or potentially maybe might happen or, whatever it is, it gives you this present moment orientation, but it also gives your brain something to do. And that is one of the most effective ways to let your brain get quieter.
Oh, so good. So we ask every guest on the podcast to share what is one thought they like to think on purpose. And for you, I'm like, it's got to be an affirmation. So what's one of your favorite go-tos or something you kind of lean on? Would you share that with us?
Yeah, well, I have a couple but a few of my favorites right now, I used one of them today. What if I have nothing to prove? Like that feels so good to me to imagine like, oh, right. Like, what the hell are you proving anyway? Just be you. And I also like, what if I'm already worthy? Because again, I think like when I burned myself out, when I ran myself into the ground with burnout, it was because I was trying to prove something. I was trying to prove some sense of lovability or worth or, value in this world. And so those are two of my tripping points. And so I like those affirmations. And then I also just really like, what if I'm more capable than I realize? Because usually I am actually,
Totally.
Yeah.
I think you had one that was, what if it all works out. It's like,
Right.
yeah, that
Yeah.
just is to me. I'm like, oh, I love that so much. It's so freeing. And it's like, right. What if it all works out? So good. Thank you for sharing those with us. Those were so good. I'm going to write them. I have the memos in my phone that are like, I don't write down power thoughts. They're going into the power thoughts memo. Yes.
Well, I'll email this to you and you can put it in the show notes.
Oh my gosh, that would be so wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up for today? This has been so amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just love sharing havening because it's kind of a life changer, I think. Like it's really significant. Our nervous system is at the base of everything we think and feel. It's at the base of our motivations and our perceptions. We don't realize it because it's unconscious, but when we shift it, it can just be really significant how many other things shift in our lives. So yeah, so thanks for giving me the opportunity to share.
Yes, and like what you're doing is like we're loving that side of us. We're loving the side of us that can be a little much sometimes, and we're showing her or him, we're showing them like we got you. And I just, yeah, I think this is such a powerful thing. I know that so many people will go back to this meditation and also check out your podcast for sure for more, because there's so many great ones on there. Thank you. This has been fabulous, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, high achiever. I know your sights are set on ambitious, world-changing goals. In the Purpose and Profit Club group coaching program, you can get the support, motivation, and strategy to accelerate your impact. I like to say it's where the inner work meets big impact and big funding. Go to splendidcourses.com/waitlist, and you will be first to be notified when we open up doors, and you'll get special bonuses when you join our waitlist. See you inside. Think you've reached out to everyone in your network? Are you out of ideas to get noticed and get funded? I hear you. That's why I'm giving you a chance to steal my prospect list. Yes, you can generate leads for your nonprofit or impact-driven business. Grab my mini training and list delivered to your inbox instantly. Go to splendidcourses.com/prospect.